Hi everyone and welcome. You're here today with Andy Valkyrie Divine, just tuning in. Today it's day 3 of the Sacral Chakra and we're continuing on with our Chakra Energy series. Thank you again for being here and for following through with this. It's becoming quite the journey and we're starting to get a lot of feedback, a lot of comments, a lot of questions. So I see that you guys are really, interested in it, and you're participating, and you're starting to discover things and identifying with things. Especially at the level of the root and the sacral. For me, I find that they're in some ways the most difficult ones to get through because they're just that sort of base that you need to move up from, right? So today we're going to continue on. We're going to talk about tools for balance for the Sacral Chakra, and I have a lot of things to cover. Tools for balance is always so long because there's so many things. So I'm going to try to go through it very quickly so I can cover everything, and then we can have a little meditation at the end, just like I did with the root. And so yesterday we were talking about, imbalances in the chakra and how those can manifest as deficiencies or as excesses. We were talking about the realm of emotions. We were talking about boundaries. We were talking about sexuality, creativity. All of those aspects can kind of go wonky depending on what extreme we're going into. And today what I'd like to discuss is, first of all, some of the practical things that you can do everyday sort of actions that you can take. So for example, just like we did with the root chakra, so these are kind of, they apply to every center, and that would be, carrying a little mojo baggie with crystals in it. I'm going to address the crystals in a second. Taking a bath with these crystals as well. So I focus a lot on crystals because that's what I feel really works for me. It doesn't have to be that way, and you don't necessarily need crystals. So remember, they're a tool to help you out, but you don't necessarily have to use them. But it helps. It helps a lot. So I'll start with just the practical stuff. So again, just carrying crystals with you, having a mojo bag, taking a bath, wearing orange so that the color reminds you that you're focusing on this center, and other things would involve things that have to do with creativity, right? So if you're blocking your creative flair, and you're not really sort of out there and expressing that, you definitely want to try to bring that out, right? And you're trying to bring movement to the energy because the energy is not flowing, right? So remember, creativity is all about flow, right? When you're in the flow, everything just happens and you're able to create from that point. And the sacral chakra is all about that. So you're looking at, being in that flow aspect so that you can, receive that kind of energy and then express it properly. So remember that, again, we're talking about the sacral, which is also about expressing your emotions. And, through creativity, through art, through music, through paintings, through writing, reading, whatever you want to do that expresses that creative side of you, making jewelry, whatever, scrapbooking. There's so many ways to express that, and each person expresses it differently. And so, it's just to actually go ahead and enter that expression so that you can release the creative forces that are inside of you. And we each have them, there's no... Hi, Mario. Sorry, my cat's saying hi. So there's not really, everyone is creative. We're each creative in our own ways, and we just have to discover what those ways are. Because when we're not creative, we're not in our flow. We're not, in our center of expressing, and when we don't express, typically we repress, and when we repress, we block. So we don't want to go through that cycle. We don't want to block, and this leads back to, it's easier to just block the emotions than to have to express them, especially when they're negative, right? We don't want to express things that are hurtful for us, because when when you're releasing, when you're clearing out an energy center, you know, it's not always pretty, you know. People sometimes come to crystal healing sessions, and for the most part they're great, but sometimes, depending on how many experiences you've been through and how much you've been storing in that chakra, you know, there's a lot that has to come out. There's a lot that you need to address, and this chakra is so rich because it has to do, you know, with emotions, and emotions are such a huge part of our life. I mean, they're intertwined in absolutely every aspect of our life, right? So there is nothing that we do that doesn't have some sort of emotion behind it, right? If we're depressed, we're sulking. If we're happy, then we're jolly and we want to do things. And, you know, if we're bored, we're kind of feeling apathetic, right? So feelings are always there no matter what we end up doing. And so for that reason, this chakra sometimes can be very overwhelming to work with, and a lot of things come up when you start to clear it. So, you know, but again, as you release those emotions, as you address them, as you, you know, as you let go of the guilt and the shame, there's a lot of guilt and shame around this center, and that also has to do with, again, you know, addressing the things that you feel you are shameful about, and question, is that really coming from you, or is it a prescription from out there, you know? And that's how you can also judge and see sort of, you know, because a lot of the times, especially with sexuality, there's a lot of societal expectations, especially for women, you know, and sometimes you tend to just kind of assimilate all these things, and there's so many societal pressures and you know, gender roles, and even things from our parents, right, from the previous generations that we've been taught, but they don't necessarily vibe with where we are now, and we need to be able to address that and see, am I feeling guilty because I think that sex is taboo? Why do I think that, you know? Does it really come from me? Do I really feel that way? Or is it something that I've been taught I should be feeling, but it's not really working out for me, right? So that's kind of the dynamic that you kind of have to go through, and it takes a lot of filtering, it takes a lot of time, but it's definitely beneficial, and you know, the more you do this kind of work, the easier it gets, because the load gets easier and easier, and so you're unblocking the center and letting that energy come up, right? And then you have that upper flow. So that's one thing. I'm going to show you some of the crystals that I have here. Let's see, because I really like them, and they do great stuff. I've been working with this one a lot, and it's really powerful, but let's try. So one of them would be fire agate, so it's right over here. I hope you guys can see it. Okay, so we're typically thinking about crystals that are orange, right? This is the color of this chakra, and so again, you're looking at that chromotherapy, you're looking at the vibration in terms of the frequency of color that we're looking at. And so fire agate would be one, carnelian is another. This is a banded carnelian. It actually is more carnelian on one side, and then the rest are sort of just bands. This is my wand, and it's magical, for the record. I should call it my magic wand. It's again a carnelian, and I really like it. The reason why I bought it is because when I look at it, you know, when I look at it this way, I don't know if you guys can see, there's a white kind of a, first of all, there was a teardrop. That was the first thing that I saw. You know, and remember we said that the sacral chakra is related to water, right? Remember I was saying that we think of like tears, pain, emotion as watery, the watery ground, and so I thought, you know, how brilliant that there's a tear that's like naturally made in this. I thought it was great. And then the other thing that came to me later, which is also a characteristic of the carnelian, is that it can also look like a flame going up. I don't know if you guys can see that. And carnelian is known for that kind of like, you know, power and vibrance and fire sort of just starting up, and you know, so for me, carnelian is like my to-go-to stone when I need to work with the sacral chakra. And as much as I like some of the other ones, they just don't do justice to, like, it, you know, carnelian for me is just something else. Next we have here orange calcite. It's a very big ball, very heavy, but it's again very, very vibrant, and you really get to see that orange juiciness, the center that we're talking about, right? It can actually be called like a sweet sacred vessel. And the reason why this chakra sometimes is called that too is because that is that vessel that you hold, that holds the sweetness for creativity, and again, like I said, for creating life, right? And it is a sacred vessel because that's the sacred place where it happens. It's, you know, right in that area. And so I really like to hold this because I literally think of a sacred vessel as I'm holding it. And one of the mudras that you can do is to just hold it like this. Sometimes you can put your fingers together if you can. This is too big for that. But just sitting there and just literally holding it like this and putting it in your lap and meditating with it, you're going to get some really, really interesting insights. And orange calcite is also very, very good for people that sometimes their boundaries are too out there. So if your boundaries are too strict and you're not really letting people in, which is the opposite of when I was saying that you let too many people in, right? So what happens is you can work with orange calcite to kind of ease up that boundary that you're putting there, that wall. Again, you're just trying to protect yourself, right? So remember, when we're in a deficient kind of state, we tend to contract back to the root and try to protect ourselves from something. So typically people that have really, really out there kind of boundaries is because they don't want to let anyone in to see the hurt, or to, you know, they're scared that they're going to get hurt again, basically. So orange calcite is very good, very, very good for that. And it's also very good if you've had like emotional trauma, any kind of emotional trauma, sexual abuse, you know, all those kinds of things. This is the stone to work with. And what I'll do is I'll read you a little bit from the Book of Stones. Again, let me just grab that. So this Bible over here, and it really, really is the best one that I've found so far. So I'll just read a bit about carnelian first of all, and then I'll move on to the orange calcite. So carnelian activates the first, second, and third chakras because it's in that same realm of color, and brings in an influx of life force, sexual and creative energies, and assertive will. It is powerful to aid those who wish to build confidence, courage, passion, and power within themselves. So again, it's that the starting fire that you're just driven, and you're, you know, again, you're trying to set up the stage for the next chakra, which is all about willpower. You know, so carnelian is perfect for that, and it aids the third chakra as well, right? So all three chakras benefit from this. Let's see. Okay, so carnelian is also a powerful ally to call upon when one needs to take major action. Again, it lends courage to take the leap, to dedicate oneself to a new path. It helps with indecision, right? So remember I was saying that in order to have some form of movement and fluidity and flow in your life, typically you make decisions, or you have choices that come up, and those choices are based on your emotions, and sometimes it's really hard to make decisions. It's really hard to choose between things, you know, and a lot of the times when you're having a difficult time doing that for yourself, this is another stone to work with, to give you that power, and to give you that clarity of mind to just do it, and just choose what feels right for you, and what gives you that life force that you're really looking for. Let's see. So that's good. Let's move on to the orange calcite. So orange calcites can be used for healing emotional issues, So again, I was talking about any kind of emotional trauma, things about sexuality, creativity, and will. It can be an ally for those working to recover from childhood experiences of shame or even deeper issues like sexual abuse. So again, this is where we're addressing the nitty-gritty, the very dirty aspects of this chakra, where we're trying to release the blockages of guilt, of shame that are associated with typical, these are the typical blockages that happen here, and also with episodes from the past that deal with emotional trauma, sexual abuse, anything that is related to that. Again, orange calcite is definitely the crystal to work with. And let's see. And the last one is it's an excellent balancing stone for those that are shy or have social phobias. So I was talking about how sometimes if you're on the excessive side, you tend to go out there and party too much and be sort of like a social, party animal. And but on the other side of the spectrum, you also have those that are scared to go out there, and they don't dare, and they're very shy. And again, their boundaries are very out there, and they don't feel like they're ready to engage in in socializing and in really knowing how to develop relationships with others. And again, remember I was saying that the sacral chakra is all about discussing, interactions with others, right? So once you have your own center, you start looking out there for that sense of expansiveness, right? And friends and partners help us with that a lot. And so if you're scared to go out there, you start to experience things like loneliness. Again, you feel, guilty. Why can't I make friends? Or why is this happening to me? So you kind of start going into that whole cycle of, I'm ashamed of myself, or, whatever emotions are associated with your negative experience. And then you start to block people out because you're already kind of feeling rejected. And that's another way that this can manifest. So the orange calcite would definitely be a stone to work on, bringing that, getting rid of the social phobia and really putting yourself out there and addressing those emotions. So that's that. And the last thing I'll do before we do the meditation is I'm just going to read again this paragraph, just because I think it's so important. And so again, it says that ideally we should be able to embrace our polarities, feel our emotions, and express ourselves sexually without losing the connection with our own center. The center of polarity is a state of balance. We must be willing to embrace both sides to achieve balance. The joining together of polarities forms the basis for power and will, which is the next step of our climb, which is in the third chakra. So again, I actually had a question the other day where someone was saying, hey, can you be experiencing manifestations of both excessive and deficient sides? And it's definitely possible. And what you want to try to do is to either, if you're too much on the excessive side, you want to try to bring those symptoms back to a more, middle ground level. And then if you're very much into the deficient side, then again, you want to try to bring that up to the, so think of it maybe this way. So if you're excessive, you want to bring it down to a middle level. And if you're deficient, you want to bring it up to a middle level so that it's a little bit more balanced out. And so it's definitely possible that you may experience, a little bit of both. We tend to go through our lives, and even throughout different times, sometimes we might range on one side of the spectrum, and at a different time in our lives, with different experiences, different people, we tend to move into another, towards the other side. So that's definitely possible. So just to address that question, and I'll go ahead now and just kind of quiet down and relax. Again, I know I'm talking a mile a minute. I just wanted to make sure it covered everything. And I'll go ahead and go through the meditation for you.